We are joined by attorney Jeff O'Brien. Often on Mondays, ordinarily, we do a 3 and out, but there's so much going on in Minnesota with the protests and with ICE that Jeff and I are going to talk a bit about that. And, you know, Jeff, obviously, I mean, what happened, it's an absolute tragedy that 2 people have died. And at a different level, it's, I'm not even going to call it tragic. I'm going to say I hate that the rhetoric from both sides has been incendiary. On the Trump side, you know, the things that he says, and then he's got his basically his officials, underlings that are his spokespeople or his mouthpieces, talk immediately with both Renee Good and Alex Preddy. They're talking about how they're domestic terrorists, and in the case of Preddy, that he took his, you know, a full 2 magazines and a gun, and, you know, he was going to start shooting up, which is, we have no idea. I mean, he had a right to have a gun. And the part about, I mean, we've heard that he didn't have any ID. Well, do we know that's true? That's coming from the ICE side, and there are reasons to question that. Now, on the flip side, you've got our governor is saying they're not law enforcement. And you had the lieutenant governor saying something like, you know, basically put your bodies on the line. Was that that's sort of the line she had, right? Or was the line she had?
Correct.
I mean, this is not productive. This is creating, I mean, both of them are like amping this thing up. And the word we've heard all week, for the last couple of weeks, it needs to de-escalate. It absolutely needs to de-escalate. But for that to happen, there needs to be cooperation on both sides, and we're not seeing it because I think we are dealing on both sides with tremendous egos, and neither side wants to back down from it. And this is why we're in the position we are in.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that you said there, Bob. You know, it sounds like from reading some reports this morning that there may be some sort of a course correction here. The president gave this interview with Wall Street Journal last night and seemed to kind of indicate that they were going to take a look at how things have been operating here. And I also heard that Tom Homan is coming here, which I think is a good move to have him oversee this operation. Nothing against Kristi Noem, but you're right. Running out right away and saying it was a domestic terrorist who had pulled a gun on the agents, which there's
no indication there was ever a gun pulled. And on that too, Jeff, we're all trying to figure out, it's possible. And, it's out there. It's been hypothesized by people. Here's the thing that's most frustrating. I mean, we all have eyes. We saw the video. But it's also possible we saw an agent basically pulling out of the group with a gun that was presumably Preddy's gun. Now, there's a claim, and this is very possible that gun went off, and that might have set off the shootings of Preddy, because, I mean, things are happening in a split second, and these guys, they are on a hair trigger.
Yeah.
Because they're concerned about their lives, too.
There's plenty of blame to go around on all sides for what actually transpired on Saturday. But yeah, I think that, they obviously have to do an investigation here and see what actually transpired.
And it should be a joint investigation where the federal government should not wall out the BCA and say, we're just going to do it.
I think that my view, being that I am a professional, we try to find resolutions to disputes. My proposed resolution here would be this. And I don't know if which one is going to be the bigger person and talk to the other one, but here's the offer that I would, if I was Trump, that I'd make to Walz. The BCA is going to participate with the FBI in the investigation, fully understanding that because of the way that things work, this is federal law enforcement, the supremacy clause, there's not going to be state prosecutions. We're going to find out answers as to what happened. On the flip side, we're going to ask you to have your state and local officials work with us. Here's the list of the remaining individuals. This is what Gretchen Whitmer did in Michigan. The remaining individuals that we want to pick up and deport. We want your cooperation. We'll end the street level enforcement. We go through the jails, however we have to do it. Work with us, and we'll wrap it up here. And I think that's a reasonable.
It is. It is reasonable because you know what? They don't need to deport everyone who came across the border and is just trying to work hard. Right. They're trying to have lives, better lives than they had. And I've said this for the last week. Get the true criminals, the ones that have committed homicides and rapes and assaults. Get them locked up. Get them off the streets. But the others, find. And I never used to feel this way, but find a path to citizenship. Give him amnesty. And you know what? If he does, this is where Trump is missing the boat. And the point, suddenly they're fans of his and his party. I mean, he could completely flip this and have them, because they're afraid that they're all going to vote Democrat. Well, they're going to be supportive of the people who kept them in the country and allowed them to stay in the country. And I don't understand why he doesn't get this. And you're absolutely right. Get the criminals out and then disperse. Be done with it.
Yeah. But let's get back to, I do think this is part of why I think that Walz wants this to keep going the way it is as a powder keg and a distraction from what started off this whole thing, which was the revelation of all the fraud with the daycare centers and the autism centers and the transportation companies and the home health companies. But if the target, they're not going to, this Operation Metro Surge isn't going to deal with the issue of these Somali-owned businesses that were fronts for a money laundering operation. That's FBI, that's Treasury. There's a larger investigation here. They're going to have, there's other, you're not going to do it. You're not going to address that through this operation. All this is becoming as a distraction from that, which is what I think everybody's really concerned about, is how much of our tax dollars were basically laundered through to possibly overseas or even to political campaigns.
Now, Jeff,
that's what I'm more interested in.
Whether, the thing is, though, that is very much on a back burner. And we can't get inside of Walz's head to see if he's content or very, happy with that, or if it's still something that he knows is a serious issue. We don't know. All we know is what they say and tell us. And I take many, many grains of salt on what I'm hearing from both sides, because I don't trust either one of them to be honest with us.
Yeah. Well, this whole point when they say we want ICE out of Minnesota. Well, they are, and like you said, they are federal law enforcement. Walz is wrong on that. They enforce federal immigration laws. There are no state immigration laws. There are federal immigration laws. So to the extent that they're saying they want ICE out, what they're saying is they don't want federal immigration law enforced in Minnesota, which we've been down this road before. There's all this talk about the Insurrection Act and should Trump invoke the Insurrection Act.
That would be a mistake. The more I think about it,
I agree with you. But I will say this: one of the times it was invoked was by President Eisenhower when they were enforcing desegregation orders in the South in schools, and you had the same thing being said, by Southern governors pushing back. They didn't want federal law enforced. Well, you don't get to choose if you want federal law enforced. So that argument that we want them out of here, no, you got to work with them. But let's figure out a way to work with them rather than, constantly fanning the flames and trying to get, all they're going to do is get more people killed when they keep up with this rhetoric.
Well, I mean, something has to change, and hopefully they both decide, they put egos aside, and they decide to work together and make it a better and a safe situation. Because right now it's not. It's an absolute powder keg. And that absolutely needs to change. All right, Jeff, we can go.
You read the descriptions of some of the people they've picked up, and it's people I wouldn't want here. So there's merit in what's going on.
No, that's absolutely right. All right, we could go on and on for this, but for now, we're going to take a break from it. We'll take a break, and I promise we'll be much lighter when we get back. The BS Show will be right back.